The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Want to shake up your small business marketing? I mean, really shake it up.
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Have you been thinking about doing your own podcast?
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Would you like to take your business to the next level?
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
This is the golden age of podcasting, and it's time to stop thinking and start doing.
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Get your message heard 24/7, 365 over and over again.
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Welcome to the 21st century.
Welcome to the Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Here's the creator and host of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, David Garofalo.
To the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is a 21-minute or less weekly podcast to help you get your message out, grow your business, and build your bottom line. That's right, your bottom line, because podcasting is a business, right? Treat it that way. Let me help you bring your marketing and promotion and advertising into the 21st century. My name is David Garofalo. I've been doing podcasting since 2010, and I've created a six-figure income from doing my podcast. 6 figures. This is a 21-minute podcast, so let's start the clock. And here we go. Today, we're talking about promotions for on your podcast. Promotions for and on your podcast. How do you promote your podcast? Let people know that you're even there. So you're using this to help your business, to grow your business. How do you let people know that your podcast is even there? In your podcast, you're going to let them know that your business is there, but how do you let them know the podcast is even there? One way is to put together a short 10 to 15 second video or slideshow telling them on your social media platform that your podcast exists. 10, 15 seconds. Just these little things that you hear on sportscasts and things like that. Little things that are going to catch somebody's attention that says your podcast is out there. And you are going to ask each one of your hosts of your show and your friends and your guests to share this information to help it go, and you hear this word a lot, go viral. And that's somebody sharing it with somebody else and sharing it with somebody else. But some short thing out there that says that this podcast exists. In order to go viral, it should be entertaining, exciting, informative, or outrageous, or a mix of any of those things combined. This little 10 to 15 second thing. You're going to try to put all those things in it. How about this? There is something in my coffee. It's information, it's professionalism, it's Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Catch the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, a podcast about podcasting. Tune it in and drink up. That is the little 10 or 15 second thing that I may put together for something like this. You do the same for your podcast and plaster that in podcast groups, in your feed, in your emails. Post it everywhere. Audio and video if possible, even if it's a little slideshow type of thing with some still pictures or a full-blown video of it, because you're going to work the audio and the video, right? Picture's worth 1,000 words. Show and set the people that are talking and laughing and having fun. That's what you want to show in the video, to let them know, even if the audio was down, that this is people broadcasting, they're having fun. Try to avoid becoming spam. You don't want to do that. Once is enough when you post it on somebody else's platform. Once is enough. And if you can ask permission to do that, that's even better. If it comes out really good, use it with links to the show and pay to get the word out. That's right, pay, invest. We talked about that last week. Invest a few bucks to get listeners to invest in listening to your show, investing their time, because that's going to be important too. Another way to promote your show is from the inside out, meaning take the listeners you already have and maybe run a contest. Ask them to repost your show. Have them do the work for you with unique hashtags on their social media. 5 random people will win the prize. The prize doesn't have to be all that expensive. Remember, these are people listening to your show already. They know, like, and trust you. Possibly something with the show name on it, or something that's not for sale. They couldn't even buy it if they wanted to. That's something that your fans already of your show are going to be interested in. Maybe a mention on the show that, it costs you absolutely nothing. You say this person did it the best, and it's just a mention on the show. There's a value to that. A shout out on the show. We're going to give you a shout out, and your business. Say something about that. Maybe a guest spot on your show that the person that wins maybe can come in for a few minutes on the show or watch you do the show live. Well, how about something that is for sale that you can drive them to buy that even if they don't win? So they could win, say, a T-shirt with their store name on it, and you're promoting the T-shirt that's what they're going to win, and after you give the winner of it out, you say they can buy it, and here's where they can go buy that shirt. So you're self-promoting at the same time, right? You're creating two things. Product discounts. If you're in the business of selling things anyway, that the person that wins gets a major discount on a product that they buy from you. Stickers. You could make up some stickers that people love stickers. And these stickers could be something of the show that they can't get, the special sticker that you made that's on your laptop or something that they can see, that they can get it for theirs or something. Get listeners to help drive new listeners to the show. Listeners love to get engaged, and they can do that by doing contests. How about sending out a press release about your show? So even if you have not even done a show yet, your first episode of your show, how about a press release for your first episode? If you've already started, you could do it on episode 100 or your first full year, or how many downloads you ended up having, your first 100 downloads, first 1,000 downloads, or a guest coming on your show. You can write a press release of your guest coming on the show. Available on the Studio 21 Podcast Café, Ed Sullivan, who has just became a certified engineer on podcasting, is going to be on the show this week. He's on the show every week, but that could be a press release, and you put that out there. Email that to your local media, all the blog sites that have to do with that subject matter, all the new medias associated with that subject matter. Reach out to the press. They're looking for stories. They have to put out information every single day, too. Imagine having something that's already written for them, and bloom, they plop it there. They probably say amen to it when it comes in and say, okay, let me put this out. So press releases about your podcast can be a major thing if you have something to say. Don't do it every single week. When you got nothing to say, it's best to say nothing. But if you got something, some milestone or some special guest or something coming on, write a press release. And we'll get into press releases in another episode of how to write a press release for something like that. But you can go to Facebook Live and put some FaceTime telling or warning people about your show. Again, teasing them about what's about to happen next week. And with that special guest, with your 100th episode, anything. Teasing is important. We're going to get to that big time next week on the show. But it's important. Remember, your own personal email list that you have. You have emails of your own personal friends. Send out the press release about you to everybody you already know when you have a press release to go out. Be your own publicist. Be your own publicity agent. Publicize you and your show. And it costs you nothing to do that. But you got to do it. It's going to cost you some time and some energy. But you want to see your show grow, you got to do something. Sitting there waiting for it to happen by itself, oh my God, what a slow ride that is, without giving it this push down the hill and helping it grow, helping it become nurturing. Do it. Do some work and effort to it. Posters and flyers. You can do a poster and a flyer. You can hang it around your shop, other people's shops, and that includes businesses to cater to your audience. So if you have businesses to cater to an audience that would be interested in your podcast, you want that poster hanging up inside their shops or handed out at that shop. Do you mind if I hang this in your shop or pile these handouts out by the counter? Ask if you can hang it up in their window. Ask. You just don't leave it there. You ask if that's okay. Get permission. Create a Facebook event around every episode that you have and put that out a week in advance, and that should include a brief info. Coming up is something clever that you don't want to miss out on the show. It could be explosive, and I mean explosive. Again, you're teasing of what's going to come up. Put some information on there and get this Facebook event. And it is an event. You're doing another podcast every single week. And be sure to always use the 5 W's. That's who, what, where, when, and why. Get that information. Remember the 5 W's when you're writing any copy that's driving somebody somewhere. The 5 W's, who, what, when, where, and why. Make sure you have that on your information. Also, when you're talking about it on your podcast, when you're talking about something, the 5 W's, always have that in the back of your mind to make sure before you end up putting this copy out, does it have that information on there? It needs it. The key to all this is to maintain a steady media push. Do it all the time. Every episode. Be consistent. Just like you're consistent doing your show every single week. Be consistent on the marketing and promotion of your podcast. Every episode can be special if you play it up properly. Promote the hell out of it. Promotions will change everything. You're working on social media, mass media, new media, you're self-promoting. Handouts can work great if you're handing them out to the perfect audience. Imagine handing out your postcard about your podcast at a rock concert, and your podcast is about rock music. Boom, perfect. Or handing out a flyer about your wrestling podcast at the wrestling matches. This is direct target marketing and promotion to the exact person that you would like to listen and you would think would hang on and listen to your show because they care about the subject matter. People love stickers, and you could make a cool-looking sticker, and you could pass those out or tag ideal locations that people would see them at.
And stickers are better than postcards in some ways because they're going to stick them somewhere, and other people are going to see them.
That's right, they stay. If you did a podcast, let's say on coffee, you could ask your local coffee shops if you could apply these stickers onto the cups every day, every week, every month. And if they do this, you'll talk about them on your show or have them on your show. It costs you nothing besides the cost of the sticker, and you're hitting people that drink coffee and like coffee and care about it, especially if it's one of those boutique coffee shops that has the ideal person that really cares about coffee. And here it is. It costs you almost nothing to do this. Now you need the secret weapon to push you over the top. The secret weapon. We're going to get to that in just 1 minute.
If you're in the area of Boston North into southern New Hampshire and you're thinking about doing a podcast, there is a place you have to see. It's called Studio 21 Podcast Café. Located right over the border into Salem, New Hampshire, Studio 21 Podcast Café is a live, working, full-service podcast and vodcast, that's video on demand, studio. All professional equipment, professional producer, and total distribution of your podcast is done for you. Would you like search engine optimization for more people to find your business or better ranking on Google? Well, Studio 21 Podcast Cafe can do it all for you for far less than you think. Schedule a free 21-minute no-obligation consultation by going to www.studio21podcast.cafe. That's studio21podcast.cafe. Now, back to the program.
And we are back, and today we're talking about promotions for and on your podcast. Facebook ads showing your contest, having a contest. This can and will be simple as a quiz about your show. Answer the questions, and the one who answered all 10 questions correctly will win the prize. In case of a tie, one winner will be chosen. So you can write 10 questions about it. You're forcing somebody to listen to the show, and they have a chance to win this prize. Put this contest on the blogs, social media. Make the prize a good one. Not a tiny prize. You don't have to go crazy, but not something teeny tiny or something. You want to engage people to end up listening to the show. How about a retweet contest? One lucky person wins a prize. The prize could even be that they're a guest on your show, much like we did before. But you want to get other people retweeting, reposting, listening to the show. That's the whole idea of these promotions. Find a cause where you can help a charity on your show. Connect with that and all their supporters. You don't have to do it all the time, but you can do it for this one show. And the number one way to leverage your podcast is the guests. Have the guests attend your shows. And when of course, the guests are attending your shows, but have the guests bring an audience into your show. Get a great guest, a popular guest on your show, and make that show easy for them to share, because they're already more popular than you to begin with. We're going to get their audience to interact with your audience and with you.
I think an important thing there is to understand where their audience is, right? Some people are big on Facebook. Some might be big on Twitter. So when you ask them to share the content, you want to be sure they're sharing it where their big audience is at.
Sure. So you do a little homework in advance, or ask them the question.
Yep.
Where do you think it would go best if you share this, would help this out? And they do it for you.
Yep.
But you have to ask.
And
you have to ask
make it
them.
easy for them.
Absolutely.
Send them exactly what you want them to share. Don't make them think about it.
Right. And if you're doing an audio file, here's the audio file. If the audio and video file, here's that too, in the way that they want it. Whatever's easiest and best for them, because they're going to be doing you a solid, man. They could double your audience overnight.
Right. We're hoping for big things on Cigar Authority.
That's right. We have
pretty big guest.
Yeah, a big guest, and we're hoping that he's going to drive us even better than we're driving, because, frankly, he has a bigger audience than we do.
Right.
So how perfect is that? So the number one way, leverage your guest audience. Get a great guest that's popular and has a bigger audience than you, and create small snippets for the show for promotion to link to the whole show. So if we have that great guest on, we could have a little snippet that's a little fun snippet. They post that on there that drives them over to the whole show, as opposed to them plopping the whole show down. So you could do that in addition, or also with, instead of. One way or the other, you want to leverage that you had them on the show before, during, and after. We talked about that too, before, during, and after. They're coming on the show. Let everybody know during the show, listen, the show's happening right now. This person's on it, and here is the show complete, and here is the information to that guest celebrity that they're going to share and drive people onto your show. And then on that show, you're saying to people that ask them to subscribe to the show. Hopefully you gave them a good show, they're interested in your show, and you have a new subscriber, and you're going to grow from there. If you're fortunate enough to get the big name in the industry, use them to grow your business. There's nothing wrong with that. They are using you for promotion, and you are to do the same. It's okay. It's tit for tat. You got a new podcast. One of the most important factors to drive a podcast up the charts is iTunes in their new and noteworthy section. And you can change everything, which is downloads and reviews. That's what they care about when it comes to this. If you have 8 weeks, you do have 8 weeks from when your podcast lands to get onto new and noteworthy. After 8 weeks, it's not new anymore, unfortunately. So your first 2 weeks are especially crucial when you're trying to do this. So that's the time you're trying to get your downloads up. You're going to hit all the people you already know. Every friend you have, bring on the guest and end up having it. Get positive reviews. Beg for the reviews. Hey, let me know what you think of it. And you know something, to be honest with you, it's going to be when your show is at its worst, which is at the beginning. It'll get better from there. But you want to get, if at all possible, on that new and noteworthy when it comes to iTunes. Ask for the review on iTunes as a part of the entry requirements for your giveaway. That's right. One way you could do it. And we're giving away this, and we're going to pick the best review.
It makes it easy to track who's entered, too. You go to your own reviews and see, okay, well, these people all did it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So this will hopefully earn you more reviews. And while we're talking about that, I'd love to get some reviews on this show. If you listen to the show and this is helping you out, even if you're not going to do business with Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, give us a nice review. It'll help us. It's going to help drive people to our show, and our ultimate goal is to get people to become members here at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe so we can do the show for you, also that we can have you on the United Podcast Network. The best way is to go out and simply kick off a contest on social media, and by monetizing it on your show, ask people to leave it on iTunes and review it in order to enter. Connect your show with other people. Okay, so you want people who are guests to be even more popular than you are to talk about. Use their name in your meta tags and on the show notes. Ed, right? This is what you do.
Yep, absolutely.
So you have them on, and you can use their name because they're on there.
And they would like that as well. Try to get their name in the title, because then it's searchable on iTunes, right? So this person joins the show for.
But I'm going to go even further than that, and I'm going to say, even if you talk about them,
right,
they're not on the show. Even if you talk about them, use their name,
yep,
because it's going to help drive the business, right? It's going to help people to come over to you.
If it's a big name, people are searching for big names.
Right. So you can do that. I mean, I don't say you throw that person's name in every single one of your shows and abuse it, but if you're talking about that character, whoever it is, I would use their name because you gave them a mention.
Essentially, it's a topic of the show.
There we go. So here is the secret weapon. Be a guest on a competitor's podcast with an open invitation for them to be on yours someday. It's a direct target hit. And you can even mention your contest on their show to their listeners. And they are interested in the subject matter anyway, and they will go to your show. And these people listen to podcasts already.
Right.
So talk about a direct hit. This is a big win. If you can get on your competitor's podcast, holy mackerel, you are going to drive their customers over to yours.
This is an interesting thing because, you can call it your competitor. They're not necessarily your competitor. They're in the same subject matter you are, you know. And it's funny because you've probably heard it too out of podcast. Well, I don't want him on my show. He's going to take my list. No, that's not the way it works. Let's say I'm a guy who watches a police TV show. Does that mean I can't watch any others?
Right.
If you're confident in the quality of your content, then bring them on. Get exposure.
What if you feel like you're better than them? Bring them on there, and they listen to them, and it makes you look all the better, right?
Right. So you just kind of have to look at what you're doing, make your stuff the best that it can be,
Absolutely.
and don't worry about what the other folks are doing.
Absolutely.
Get them on the show and leverage them.
And get you on their show. If it takes you to bring them onto your show, do it.
Yep.
With the invitation that hopefully you're going to get the invitation, or you call him right out on the show and you say, I'd love to be on your show. Sure. What's he going to say? He's on live. He's going to say, sure, anytime. And as soon as the show's over, you're going to say, how about next week? Right. So here at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, we are here to help you with all this. And we'd love to do it. And we do it for a lot of people, and we'd love to do it for you. Are you too busy to do it all for yourself? We can help. We'd love to work with you. Contact me at dave@studio21podcast.cafe. That's dave@studio21podcast.cafe. Schedule a free 21-minute meeting with me, and we'll show you the studio, and we'll talk about your thoughts and plans, and I'll even buy you a cup of coffee. Next week, something you won't believe. Wait till you hear this. It's probably going to change the way you look at podcasts forever. These are all teasers. They're there to bring the listener back and attract new ones. And that's what we're going to talk about next week on the show. That's my 21 minutes or less, and we're out of here. You've been listening to the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, live from the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe on the United Podcast Network.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.